So let's move on to the second demonstration. I'm a GIS professional, and my biggest annoyance is the people that come into my office and interrupt the work I want to be doing because they just need help making a simple map, or they need help finding data. I always end up helping them, but why can't they help themselves? Well, enter the world of self-service mapping. If you find yourself in this situation, perhaps you can teach them to help themselves. To learn more about this pattern, please welcome Ken Gorton.
Thank you, John. When implementing GIS solutions for your clients, I bet many of you can identify people in their organizations whom the GIS is not initially intended to serve. Yet many of these people, upon seeing the power and value of maps, still find their way into the GIS analyst's office, data in hand, asking for maps of their accounts, their projects, perhaps just some data their boss found on the internet. And the GIS analyst very often would go ahead and make the map as a simple professional courtesy. But if instead they empower that person with self-service mapping, the analyst begins to lay the foundation for expanding the GIS throughout the organization. So this morning I'd like to show you what some organizations are doing to try and bring in these non-traditional users into their enterprise GIS. I'll start by logging into my subscription account. And I'll go to my home page. This is a great place for me to see anything that's been shared with me, but I also find a link to my online mapping tools. We're here to make maps, right? Now this first step, importing my data, goes very quickly. So I need you to pay attention here. To import my data, I simply drag and drop my data file. And now you have to admit, even for somebody who's brand new to GIS, that was pretty easy. And it imported all of my projects. And that includes the attributes as well. Now the data here comes from part of a report by Restore America's Estuaries, an alliance of 11 community-based conservation organizations. The points represent their federally funded coastal restoration projects. Now, the first time I show this to somebody, very often among their first questions are, can I customize these pop-ups? And also, can I change the symbols at all? Now, of course, the answer to both of these questions is yes. I can put static content in these pop-ups and make them all appear uniform, or I can individualize each pop-up to its project by selecting from the attribute fields that were imported with my data. I can even add charts and graphs. So I add a little column chart to my pop-up that shows the federal funding and the local member match for each of these projects. And of course, changing the symbols is just as easy. Since these are community-based projects, I'll size these points based on the volunteer hours field to show the level of community participation. And isn't that a little bit better? No? It seems opinions vary. But I'll go and save it anyway. I'll put this in my coastal restoration folder and save it to my content. And when I do, I can go to my content page and I can see this new web map that I've just created this morning. If I click it, it takes me to a details page which I can edit and add additional descriptive content. I'll just take a second to rearrange this a little bit here. There, you see how I have an image here. I could put any kind of rich content here. Images, URLs. I could even copy and paste HTML from a web page. I have a small image I'll use as a thumbnail to finish this up. And that's it. That, my friends, is self-service mapping. But for many people, the most important step is still to come. You think about it. The reason they need a map in the first place is because they have a story to tell. They need to communicate, inform. Now, we've seen how we can share our maps using web application templates. Well, just recently, we released an update to ArcGIS Online, including a number of new templates to help you tell your stories. So I'm going to choose a configurable storytelling template to publish a live website to the cloud. And this will help me tell the story of coastal restoration. All right, now, here's a quiz question for you. What's one of the handiest features of a configurable web application? It's configurable, of course. I don't need to be satisfied with one size fits most. I can add the story to my map, and this is what people will see on the opening page of this website every time they visit it. So now people don't open my web map. They unfold the story of coastal restoration, and they receive the message that I want them to receive, and from there they can explore the map. So this is just one of the many ways some organizations are attempting to expand their GIS to incorporate new groups of users. Using self-service mapping, anyone can start with their own data, make their own maps, mash them up with additional organizational content, and then publish their maps and their stories for others. And when they do this, they're actually expanding the richness and the value of their organizational enterprise GIS. So I'm glad you let me show you that this morning. Thank you. John?
Thanks, Ken. Before Ken's demo, I mentioned my biggest annoyance. Well, I'm happy to report that he is now using his ArcGIS Online workgroup subscription plan to make his own maps. And he's been making his own maps for his presentations this week. So we're going to protect his identity, but we're just going to call him Dave. And you may see him later this week showing the maps that he's made. So this is working. It's contagious. It's spreading in a good way as more and more people take advantage of this self-service mapping capability.